today I'm going to try to draw this volcanic stone statue with a name that I'm absolutely not going to attempt to pronounce here on Jeju Island in South Korea. For those interested, these are spelt Dolhareubang, so now you know why I don't want to pronounce it. And so I'll just refer to them by their English name, which is Stone Grandfathers. Even though you can find stone grandfathers literally like every 10 feet in Jeju Island, I was having some trouble finding one that wasn't in a highly trafficked area. And I mean both car and foot traffic. A lot of these are actually like right on the side of the road. But I managed to find this one. And he just so happens to be part of this local fast food restaurant's outside decor. Isn't that fun? Is he actually made of volcanic stone, or is it foam? I don't know. I didn't check. According to Wikipedia, these statues possibly began being made at latest 500 years ago. And there are less than 50 original statues left. What are the odds that my fast food guy, is one of them? Can you imagine? They're apparently a symbol of fertility, and I will not be elaborating on that anymore because you have your own eyeballs. You can do your own investigative work to solve that one. All right, so I've sketched in his hat, and now I'm getting to the rest of his head. I'm really taking my time with this one, going much slower than I need to, but I wanted to get things as right as possible in the beginning, and I didn't mind these small scratchier marks because he's made of foam stone anyway. He's made of stone, so the texture in the lines was fine. Outside of his, what I understand to be pretty iconic silhouette and facial features, this guy was all pretty simple shading and texture. But I'll just say now that I definitely was overthinking it from the start. This video is over 18 minutes long, which is ridiculous at this point. And I can't tell you why. While I sat there, I felt like I was racing through it. But maybe it was just that I felt like the shapes in the beginning were coming together, so I guess I felt like I could take my time later on. But no, I took my time the whole time, so please bear with me. Something I've done here is block in where I know there will be a shadow. That way I leave enough room as I draw in the rest of his features. If I remember correctly from my limited experience drawing a few years back, which I've mentioned in previous videos, and speaking of, I'm curious as to how that works. Should I expect you to have watched all of the previous videos with all the little bits of information about me and my life? Or should I be reiterating them consistently? At least some of the more pertinent stuff. I'm not sure how that works. If you didn't watch those videos, specifically the first one, well, how dare you, first of all, but also just go do that. Briefly though, 5 years ago, I followed a YouTube playlist where I learned a little bit of a specific drawing method, and that it helped me a lot at the time, but I've forgotten most, if not all of that by now. And ultimately, I don't think it made me that much better of a drawer. That can't be the right word. Sketcher? Those are shoes. Whatever. Someone who draws. You get it. Anyway, if I remember correctly from that experience, blocking in different values being shades of light and dark, is a generally good thing to do. So that's what I've done here above his brow. And I'm not sure if I've been doing it in previous videos. If I have, it's kind of just seeped out of my brain of its own accord. But it's something I will be keeping in mind as I go on. Apparently not now, though. I didn't follow my own advice and went right in and shaded in his eyebrows. Okay, some consistency would be nice. I'll try to keep that in mind going forward. While I crawl through drawing in his face, I was thinking, if I was watching these videos, I might wonder, so maybe you do too, why I've created this small frame within the larger frame of the paper, essentially cutting the amount of drawing space in half. I've thought about that a lot in these videos, and I've just never brought it up. But maybe you're wondering. So one answer is that the big blank page is scary, and that's a big reason. Just having a smaller area to draw within quells that fear for a reason I can't really articulate. So another answer, a much simpler one, and maybe the primary one, is that it gives me room to hold the sketchbook just for the sake of these videos. When I was first going through the concept phase of making them, stuff like that would just keep me up at night. It seems so inconsequential, and the people with whom I would talk about this project definitely, I know, rolled their eyes deep into the back of their heads. But I knew that it mattered more than it seemed, because as soon as you hit record, all of that small stuff, it just comes rushing forward. The size of the paper, the angle that you shoot it at, to split screen or not, things like those need to be considered beforehand, or else, I would have constantly had to make those types of decisions as they arise. I was trying to get as much of that out of the way before ever going outside to draw, because I knew that the drawing just by itself would be a high enough hurdle. So one of those things ended up being this. Hey, what should I draw in? And at the time, I already had my small sketchbook that I've mentioned a few times that I have started carrying around. It's really just like a notebook, like field notes kind of. But it was, I bought that a few months before I even thought of any of this, and I never used it once. So I originally considered drawing in that for the videos. But then I noticed how my thumb would cover up part of the paper. And then what would I do when I reached that part of the paper? How would I change my grip to accommodate it in the middle of the video? You might not think about it, but the paper has to be, the whole sketchbook and everything, and my hand and all that has to be framed in such a way to where you can see it constantly. And in some of these I have moved around, and I'm sure I will continue to do so. But with something so small, with nowhere to put it, and with having to rearrange my, how I'm holding it, the framing would almost certainly get messed up as I'm recording. So I decided to go buy a cheap sketchbook, ideally spiral bound like this one, so I wouldn't have to think about also holding the other pages back. So I fixed the thumb problem, but only if I didn't fill the entire page up. I considered just not drawing to the edges, so I never got to my thumb with no border, but I think at my level, that would be really hard for me to envisage. So I ultimately decided to drop my little sketchbook on top of my big sketchbook, the one you're seeing now, and just trace its border right onto the paper. And that's what you see. The border is just the shape of that little pocket sketchbook exactly, which is helpful because any practice that I might do in the sketchbook is just a one-to-one on the paper. Man, we're really behind the curtain now. This is secret recipe kind of stuff. Also, while we're being so tangential, I recently spoke about photography. Maybe it was the last video or the one before that, I can't remember. And how it's what I do for a living. And that had me thinking about how I could be filming these on my actual camera rather than my phone. If you can't tell, surely you can. That's what I'm doing here. I make these on my phone, and it is completely due to the ease of use. I knew going into this YouTube thing, that any extra barrier would be one too many, and it would risk collapsing the whole project. I usually have my camera with me anyway, so I could feasibly make these look a lot better, but that would mean get things like the focal length, getting that right, which is a whole can of worms that maybe we'll talk about at a later date, as well as having to consider like indoor spots, like Cafe Dendry, and whether or not, I don't know, the owners would be cool with me setting up what, looks to be a much more professional setup, which also goes for popular tourist spots as well. With my phone, I can be super discreet. It takes up obviously so much less space. I don't have to concern myself with SD cards filling up, setting the shutter speed or battery life or any of that stuff. With that, and now I'll go ahead and dismantle everything I just said. I would really love to make the videos look as smooth and creamy and professional as I know I could make them. I'd love for the visuals in these videos to evolve alongside everything else, not just in how I compose the shot and the general scene that I'm selecting to shoot, which will progress, but the actual look of the video file itself. It most likely won't happen anytime soon. I'm not sure it will ever happen because of how easy to use my phone is. But man, it certainly would be nice if I could make it look that much better. Okay. All right. Like I said, I could have done all this a lot quicker than I did, but I got way too in my head and started overthinking the smallest decisions, and it made this thing run on for a lot longer than necessary. In fact, a few hours later, I sat down with that pocket sketchbook and just doodled another one of this, one of these same guys, without a reference in less than 5 minutes. And that one looks significantly better than this one does. Maybe I just already understood the general shape, so I could spend more time with the texture and shading. The one in my little sketchbook is much darker and looks, well, maybe a little bit more evil than friendly like this one, but still 5 minutes. Man, if I could knock these out in 5 to 8 minutes all the time, that would be great. But sometimes I just walk up to these subjects or scenes or whatever, and in my head I'm thinking, okay, 10 minutes is probably fine, and then 10 minutes flies by, and like this one, it's nearing on 20 minutes. So I apologize for that. Actually, maybe not. Hopefully you like it. So whatever. It's all getting me more practice, more drawing practice. Like the diver statue from a few videos ago, drawing these organic shapes is not only a lot more forgiving, it's also much more fun. And I think it'll be even more fun with real people. I kind of mentioned that a little bit. Maybe it was in that video or a later one, but these rigid edges on the statues probably aren't as forgiving as real skin. Well, maybe that's actually a terrible take. Maybe drawing people is much more difficult. And actually, yeah, as I say this, the person that I would be drawing is going to see the drawing and know immediately whether or not they see the resemblance. Okay, never mind. I take it back. I'll keep drawing statues for now. I'm sure it's much easier. With that, I wonder how transferable this skill is. Like, will I be better at drawing real grandfathers if I keep practicing with, this stone one or other stone ones. And on that note, which one would be better? Practicing on stone grandfathers, but in real life, or using photo references of real people? The former, I guess, would help with seeing dimension, like seeing it in the real world, not relying on, the frame of an image to help you place things or whatever. But the latter is also the real thing. It may not be in the real world, but it's the real thing that you're looking at. Actually, wait, scratch this too. Of course, the photo reference would be better. I don't know what I'm saying, because skin and hair and all the rest of things react to light differently, and stone or foam or whatever I've been saying this thing is doesn't help me at all drawing people. What am I even saying? Why do you listen to these? Okay. As you can see, I know I haven't talked a lot about this one, but there's not all that much to say. I'm going a little wacky with the shading, but I actually wish the whole thing was a lot darker, and then the shadows were darker still. But for only the second time drawing something like this, I think I'll take it. I don't exactly. I think I said this in the Henyo diver video, but I don't exactly understand how to retain the texture and shading all at once. The one that I did in my sketchbook is kind of that method all over it, just very squiggly, but some areas are more squiggly than others. And so those are the dark areas, but the squiggly lines mixed with some of these darker dots and stuff like that really sells the whole texture of the whole thing. I just wish I would have done it a little bit more on this one, but actually, as I say this, I don't, because like I've said already twice, this video is on the verge of 20 minutes, and it definitely does not need to be any longer than it is. So yeah, by no means do I hate this one, and that just means more progress. He's definitely not as chill and disarming as the reference. I've given him kind of an uncomfortable sort of demeanor, like he's wondering when I'll leave. But what do you think? Did I get close enough? Should I do more of these? Let me know. I appreciate you watching these videos, but only if you've watched every single one. If not, well, maybe I'm a little less grateful. Jokes aside, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you tomorrow.